Yara didn't know the stranger in the corner booth had walked this earth for 400 years. She didn't know he'd been watching her for 5 nights straight, searching for a sign that she was the woman his dying seer had promised, the one who could feel the weight of centuries with a single touch. And she definitely didn't know that the careless brush of her fingers against his would shatter every wall she'd spent 23 years building. All she knew was that her feet were screaming, her patience was gone, and if the last drunk didn't leave in the next 5 minutes, she'd drag him out by his collar. The Gilded Sparrow wasn't much, a crooked timber tavern squeezed between a blacksmith's forge and a crumbling apothecary on the east side of Thornwick. The kind of place where men came to forget their troubles, and women came to serve them drinks while pretending not to notice wandering hands. Yara had worked here for 3 years, ever since her brother Nevin had stolen 40 gold pieces from a merchant lord and left her to pay the debt. 40 had become 200 with interest. 200 had become a chain around her neck. She wiped down the last table, muscles aching. The fire had burned low, casting the room in dying amber light. The air smelled of stale ale and wood smoke and the faint sweetness of spilled wine. 1 more hour. 1 more hour, and she could collapse onto her thin mattress upstairs and pretend tomorrow didn't exist. That's when she heard it. The creak of leather. The soft exhale of someone who'd been holding very, very still. Yara's head snapped toward the corner booth. The one shrouded in shadow. The one she'd wiped down an hour ago. A man sat there, watching her. Her blood went cold. The front door was bolted. She'd checked it twice. The back door was latched from the inside, which meant he'd been here the entire time, sitting in silence while she worked, and she hadn't noticed. No one was that quiet. No one was that still. "We're closed." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. She'd learned long ago not to let fear show. It only made predators hungrier. "Doors that way." The man didn't move. The shadows clung to him like they were afraid to let go. "One drink." His voice was low, rough, aged like whiskey left too long in the barrel. "Then I'll leave." "The taps are dry." "They're not." Yara's jaw tightened. Arrogant bastard. She could see the shape of him now. Broad shoulders, dark hair past his collar, the glint of something silver at his throat. And his eyes. Even in the dim light, they caught the last flicker of firelight and held it. Amber ringed with gold, the eyes of something not entirely human. "Who the hell are you?" she wanted to ask. Instead, she heard herself say, "What are you drinking?" "Whiskey. Neat." Yara moved behind the bar, keeping him in her peripheral vision. Her fingers found the bottle without looking. She'd poured 1,000 drinks in this room, could do it blindfolded. But her hands wanted to tremble, and she refused to let them. She could feel him watching her, not the way most men watched, hungry and obvious. This was different, clinical, assessing, like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. She hated it. When she brought the glass to his table, she set it down harder than necessary. Whiskey sloshed over the rim. 12 coppers, she said flatly. He didn't reach for the drink. Instead, he looked up at her, and the full force of his attention hit her like a physical blow. Gods. He was older than she'd first thought. Not elderly, but weathered in a way that had nothing to do with wrinkles. Mid-30s maybe, with a face that looked carved from stone and then reluctantly softened. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and a mouth set in a line that suggested he'd forgotten how to smile decades ago. But it was his eyes that pinned her in place. Ancient. That was the only word for them, like staring into a well with no bottom. "Sit with me," he said. "I don't sit with customers." "I'm not a customer." "You're holding a drink I poured. That makes you a customer." The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Sit with me, and I'll pay your debt." All of it. Yara went rigid. How do you know about my debt? I know many things about you, Yara. Her name in his mouth sounded wrong, too intimate, too knowing. She took a step back, her hand drifting toward the knife strapped beneath her apron. Who are you? Someone who needs your help. I'm a barmaid. I pour drinks. That's the extent of my help. He leaned back, the shadows shifting across his face. You're more than that. We both know it. Her heart slammed against her ribs. No, he can't know. Nobody knows. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? He extended his hand across the table, palm up, a simple gesture, an invitation. Touch me, then tell me you don't know. Yara stared at his hand like it was a coiled snake, large, scarred, with calluses that spoke of centuries of sword work. Centuries. The words surfaced unbidden, ridiculous. I don't touch strangers, she said. You're afraid of what you'll feel. I'm not afraid of anything. Then prove it. It was a trap. She knew it was a trap. But something in his gaze, that impossible, ancient gaze, pulled at her, dared her. Don't do it. Her mother's voice whispered from memory. Don't ever let them see what you can do. Yara reached out and pressed her fingers to his palm. The world shattered. Time crashed into her, wave after wave of it. Not years, not decades, centuries. She felt battles fought before her grandmother's grandmother was born. She tasted grief so old it had calcified into stone. She heard a heartbeat that had thundered through plagues and wars and the rise and fall of kingdoms. 400 years. This man had lived for 400 years. Yara wrenched her hand back, gasping. Her chair scraped against the floor as she stumbled away from the table. What? Her voice cracked. What are you? He rose slowly, unfolding from the booth with a predator's grace. Standing, he was enormous. Easily a head taller than her, with shoulders that blocked the dying firelight. I told you. His voice was soft. Dangerous. I'm someone who needs your help. Stay back. She fumbled for her knife. I don't date older men. The absurdity of the words hit her a second after she said them. Nervous deflection. Stupid. But the stranger's expression shifted. Something flickered in those ancient eyes. Surprise. Maybe. Or amusement. Date? He repeated. You know what I mean. Whatever this is, whatever you're selling, I'm not interested. He took a single step closer. The air between them crackled. You've never met a man like me. I've met plenty of men like you. Rich. Powerful. Used to getting what they want. She raised her chin. You don't impress me. No? Another step. Close enough now that she could smell him. Pine and wood smoke and something wilder underneath. Then why is your heart racing? Because you broke into my tavern and you're clearly insane. Yara kept the knife between them, though her arm was shaking. 400 years. That's impossible. And yet you felt it. She had. God's help her, she had. Every year of it, pressing against her gift like an ocean against a crumbling seawall. She'd touched thousands of people in her life, accidentally, unavoidably, and the oldest had felt maybe 60, 70 years. Dull flickers of memory, manageable weight. This man carried the burden of mountains. Who are you? She demanded again. My name is Lorcan. He said it simply, without ceremony. I'm the Alpha King of the Northern Territories. The knife nearly slipped from her fingers. The Alpha King. Everyone knew the stories. The warrior who'd united the fractured wolf packs after the Blood Wars, who'd held the Northern throne for, oh gods. 312 years on the throne, Lorcan said, as if reading her thoughts. Give or take, time blurs after the 1st century. Yara's legs felt weak. That's a myth. The Alpha King is just a title passed down. It's not. He tilted his head, studying her. You felt my age with your own gift. Do you still think I'm lying? She didn't. That was the terrifying part. Her gift had never lied to her. Couldn't lie to her. Why are you here? She whispered. Because of your mother. The words hit her like a blow to the chest. My mother is dead. I know. She died when you were 7. Burned by a mob who discovered what she could do. Lorcan's voice softened, but only slightly. She could feel the truth in people, their age, their intentions, their deepest secrets. And so can you. Yara's throat closed. She hadn't spoken about her mother's death in 16 years, had trained herself to never think about the screaming, the smoke, and the way her father had shoved her into a cellar and told her to stay silent no matter what she heard. How do you know that? Because your mother helped me once, long ago, before you were born. She had a vision, said her daughter would inherit her gift, said if I ever had need, I should find you. And you waited until now? I hoped I'd never have to ask. Something shifted in his expression, not quite vulnerability. This man didn't seem capable of that, but something close. My sister was taken, 8 months ago, by people who know how to hide from wolves, from trackers, from every method I've tried. A sister. Yara felt how that word dragged at him. I've hunted across 3 kingdoms, Lorcan continued, spent fortunes on mercenaries and spies, found nothing but dead ends and cold trails. He reached into his coat and withdrew a small object, a bracelet, delicate silver links with a single sapphire charm. This was hers. She wore it every day since our mother died. Yara stared at the bracelet. Even from here she could feel it humming, calling to her gift like a flame to a moth. You want me to touch that, she said flatly. I want you to tell me where they took her. What you see. What you feel. His amber eyes burned into hers. I want you to help me find Soraya before they kill her. Or worse. And if I refuse? Then I walk away. I don't force. I don't threaten. I ask. Yara laughed, sharp and bitter. You're the Alpha King. Asking is threatening. No. He stepped back, giving her space, giving her air. I've learned that lesson the hard way. Obedience earned through fear is worthless. I'm not here to command you, Yara. His voice dropped. I'm here to beg. The word landed heavy in the silence. A 400-year-old king, begging a barmaid for help. Yara looked at the bracelet in his hand, then back at his face, at the exhaustion carved into every line, the desperation he was barely holding back. Tell me everything, she said. And I'll decide. Lorcan told her everything. His sister Soraya, barely 19, fierce and reckless and too brave for her own good, had vanished during a diplomatic visit to the eastern provinces. No ransom note, no body, no trace, just a cold trail and a bracelet left behind in her ransacked quarters. 8 months, he said, his voice hollow. 8 months of nothing. My trackers found fragments. A witness here, a rumor there. But whoever took her knows how to disappear. They're not ordinary kidnappers. What are they? I don't know yet. That's why I need you. Yara turned the bracelet over in her mind, not yet touching it. And in exchange? Name your price. My debt. All 200 gold pieces. Done. And safe passage out of Thornwick when this is over. New papers. A new name if I need it. Lorcan nodded. Done. Too easy. Yara's eyes narrowed. Why? You're a king. You could hire 100 people with my gift. There are no 100 people with your gift. His gaze held hers. There's barely a handful in the known world, and most are either dead, mad, or so deep in hiding I'd never find them. Your mother was the strongest I ever met. And according to her, you're stronger. The words settled into Yara's chest like stones. Stronger. She didn't feel strong. She felt like a woman drowning in debt, hiding a curse that had killed her mother, working herself to death in a tavern that smelled like regret. "How long?" she asked. 10 days. I have other leads to pursue simultaneously. If you can't find anything in 10 days, I'll release you from our agreement with full payment. And if I find her? Then I'll owe you more than gold can repay. Yara stared at him, this ancient creature wearing the shape of a man, offering her freedom with one hand while asking her to rip open old wounds with the other. "I want a blood oath," she said. Lorcan's eyebrow rose. "You know about blood oaths?" "My mother taught me. Words can be twisted. Blood can't." Something flickered across his face. Respect, maybe. He drew a knife from his belt, the blade dark and etched with symbols she didn't recognize. Without hesitation, he sliced his palm. Blood welled up, black in the dim light. He offered her the knife. Yara took it. The handle was warm from his grip. She cut her own palm, quick, shallow, and clasped his hand before she could lose her nerve. The moment their blood mingled, her gift exploded. 400 years slammed into her. But this time, she wasn't just feeling his age. She was feeling him. His loneliness, vast as an empty cathedral. His grief, layered like sediment. His hope, fragile and desperate, pinned entirely on her. And beneath it all, something else. A pull, a recognition. Like her soul had been waiting for this hand her entire life. Mate. The word surfaced from somewhere primal, somewhere her mother had warned her about but never fully explained. Yara gasped and pulled away. Lorcan's eyes had widened, his chest heaving. He'd felt it too. She could see it in the shock breaking through his iron control. Neither of them spoke. Finally, Lorcan cleared his throat. "The oath is sealed." "Yes." Her voice was barely a whisper. "It is." He wrapped his palm with a strip of cloth, movements careful, deliberate. "I'll send someone for you at dawn." Then he was gone, slipping through the back door like smoke, leaving Yara alone with a bleeding hand and a bond she didn't understand. Dawn arrived faster than Yara wanted. She'd spent the night staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every word, every impossible sensation. The mate pull still hummed beneath her skin, faint but persistent, like a second heartbeat she couldn't silence. "It doesn't mean anything," she told herself. "It's just magic, just the oath." She almost believed it. The knock came precisely at sunrise. Yara opened the door to find a woman in riding leathers, dark-skinned and sharp-eyed, with twin daggers strapped to her thighs. "I'm Kestrel," the woman said. "His Majesty sent me." Of course he did. If Kestrel noticed the sarcasm, she ignored it. "Your belongings?" Yara gestured to the small sack at her feet. Everything she owned fit inside. 2 dresses, her mother's hairpin, a journal she'd never written in. "That's it? I travel light." Kestrel's mouth twitched. "Good. So does he." The journey took most of the day. They rode north through forests that grew older and wilder with every mile, until the trees themselves seemed to watch them pass. Kestrel spoke little, but her silence was comfortable rather than cold. By late afternoon, the trees opened, and Yara's breath caught. The ironhold rose from the mountainside like it had grown there, dark stone and sharp towers, brutal and beautiful in equal measure. Waterfalls cascaded down the cliffs on either side, filling the air with mist and thunder. "Home," Kestrel said simply. They crossed a bridge carved from a single slab of granite, wide enough for 10 horses abreast. Below, the gorge dropped into shadow. Inside the walls, the fortress transformed. Where Yara expected cold stone and military severity, she found warmth. Fires crackled in massive hearths, tapestries softened the walls, not battle scenes, but forests and hunts and wolves running beneath full moons. Servants moved with purpose but without fear, nodding to Kestrel as they passed. "Your quarters," Kestrel said, stopping at an oak door banded with iron. "His Majesty will send for you when he's ready." The room was larger than the entire floor above the Gilded Sparrow, a bed piled with furs, a copper tub already filled with steaming water, a window overlooking the mountains, the glass so clear it seemed like open air. Yara stood in the center, afraid to touch anything. This wasn't her world. These silks and furs and impossible luxuries, they belonged to someone else. Someone who hadn't spent 3 years scrubbing ale stains and dodging groping hands. But her debt was paid. For the first time in 3 years, she owed nothing. She sank into the bath and let the hot water ease muscles she hadn't realized were clenched. Steam rose around her, carrying the scent of pine and something sweeter. Honeysuckle, maybe. 10 days, she reminded herself. Then I'm free. But even as she thought it, that stubborn pull tugged at her chest, toward him. Yara closed her eyes and submerged herself completely, hoping the water might drown out the feeling. It didn't. Lorcan summoned her that evening. Yara followed a servant through corridors lined with weapons and wolf skull sconces, her stomach tight with nerves. The mate pull had quieted to a low hum, but the moment she entered his study, it flared. He stood by a massive oak table, maps spread before him, the bracelet gleaming at the center. He'd changed from last night's dark traveling clothes into something simpler, linen shirt, leather trousers, but he still carried that predator's stillness. "You look rested," he said. "You look like you haven't slept in 8 months. A ghost of a smile. Accurate." He gestured to the table. "Are you ready?" No. She wasn't ready. Every instinct screamed at her to run, from the bracelet, from the visions it would bring, from the bond crackling between them. But she'd made an oath. Yara approached the table. The bracelet seemed to pulse as she drew closer, hungry for her touch. "If I collapse," she said, "catch me. Always." The word was too soft, too intimate. She ignored it. Yara picked up the bracelet. Pain. It hit her first, sharp and immediate. Soraya's terror as hands grabbed her in the darkness. The taste of blood where she'd bitten her tongue to keep from screaming. The hood shoved over her head, blocking everything but the sound of horses and men's laughter. Movement, days of travel, the creak of wagon wheels. Soraya's wrists rubbed raw from rope, whispered conversations she strained to hear. Lord Varen wants her untouched. For now. Once the king's broken, he won't care what condition she's in. A room, stone walls, a window too narrow to crawl through. Better treatment now. Food, water, a bed, but still a prison. A man's voice. Smooth, cultured, familiar somehow. "You're more valuable than you know, little wolf. Your brother will tear the world apart looking for you. And while he does, I'll take everything he's built." Soraya's response, hoarse but defiant. "He'll kill you." Laughter. "He trusts me too much to suspect. By the time he realizes, it'll be far too late." Yara wrenched herself free of the vision, gasping. The bracelet clattered to the table. Lorcan caught her before she hit the floor, his arms solid and warm around her. "What did you see?" "She's alive." Yara's voice shook. Being held somewhere with stone walls, a fortress maybe, mountains visible through the window. "Where?" "I don't know yet." "But Lorcan." She gripped his arm, forcing him to meet her eyes. "Someone close to you did this. Someone you trust." She called him Lord Varen. Lorcan went still. Not the stillness of a predator stalking prey, the stillness of a man who'd just been stabbed. "That's impossible," he said quietly. "I only see what's real. You know that. Varen is my cousin, my blood. He's served on my council for 160 years. He held me when my parents died. And he's holding your sister now." Lorcan released her abruptly, turning away. His hands gripped the edge of the table hard enough to splinter wood. Why? The word came out broken. What could he possibly want? Yara steadied herself against a chair. The vision had drained her, left her hollow and shaking, but she'd seen enough to piece it together. Your throne. He said he'd take everything you built while you were distracted searching. He's been planning this, maybe for years. 160 years of loyalty. Lorcan's voice was ice now, fury freezing over grief. Meals shared, battles fought side by side, and it was all a lie. I'm sorry. He turned, and the raw devastation in his eyes made her chest ache. Don't be. You've given me more in one night than 8 months of searching. He straightened, and she watched him rebuild his walls brick by brick. I know his estates. There are 3 in the eastern mountains. Any of them could match what you described. I might be able to narrow it down, if there are other objects Soraya touched, or things from Varen's possession. Tomorrow. His voice softened. You're pale as snow. You need to rest. I can push through. No. He stepped closer, and the mate pole sang between them. I won't break you to save her. We do this carefully, strategically. His hand lifted, hesitated, then gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. You're too important. The touch burned. Yara stepped back before she did something stupid, like lean into it. Tomorrow then, she said hoarsely. She fled to her room and didn't look back. The next 3 days blurred together. Mornings, Yara worked with the objects Lorcan had collected. Scraps of fabric from the abduction site. A letter Varen had written to Soraya before her disappearance. A ring that had belonged to their mother. Each vision peeled back another layer, revealing more of Varen's careful conspiracy. He'd been planning this for decades, patient as a spider, placing loyalists in key positions, manipulating trade routes, weakening Lorcan's alliances through whispered rumors and strategic betrayals. Soraya was just the final move. Afternoons, Yara explored the Ironhold. She discovered a library 3 stories tall, filled with texts older than most kingdoms. A greenhouse where impossible flowers bloomed despite the mountain cold. A kitchen where the head cook, a gruff woman named Briga, forced pastries on her and demanded opinions. And everywhere she went, she felt Lorcan. Not watching, he was too careful for that, but aware, present. Like some invisible thread connected them across stone walls and winding corridors. On the 3rd evening, she found him on the eastern battlements, staring at the mountains where his sister was caged. Couldn't sleep, she asked, joining him at the wall. I could ask you the same. I tried. Couldn't. He glanced at her, really looked at her for the first time since the study. The moonlight carved his face into sharp relief, softening nothing. The visions are getting worse, he said. It wasn't a question. I'm managing. You're lying. Yara laughed despite herself. I forgot. Wolf senses. Don't need wolf senses for that. You've got shadows under your eyes deep enough to drown in. Poetic. Do you rehearse these lines? I've had 4 centuries to practice. They stood in silence, the wind carrying the scent of snow and pine. Yara found herself studying his profile. The strong nose, the jaw tight with suppressed emotion, the way his shoulders carried the weight of a kingdom. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything. Why haven't you taken a mate? 400 years is a long time to be alone. Lorcan was quiet for a moment. I almost did once. A long time ago. Her name was Mira. She was kind and patient and everything I thought I wanted. He paused. She died. Plague. I couldn't save her. I'm sorry. It was 300 years ago. The grief has faded. He turned to look at her. After that, I stopped trying. The throne consumed everything. Easier to be alone than to lose someone again. And now? The question hung between them. Lorcan's hand found hers on the cold stone. The mate pull flared, and this time, Yara didn't pull away. Now I've found someone who makes me want to try again. His voice dropped, rough and vulnerable. Someone who faced a 400-year-old king in a dirty tavern and told him she didn't date older men. Yara's heart stuttered. That was nervous deflection. I know. It was also the bravest thing anyone said to me in centuries. His thumb traced circles on her wrist. You don't bow. You don't simper. You look at me like I'm just a man. Flawed and desperate and possibly insane. You are possibly insane? See? His smile was crooked, almost boyish. That's what I mean. She should step back, should remind him of the 10 days, the deal, the clean exit she'd negotiated. Instead, she said, I'm still terrified of this. I know. You're too old for me, too powerful, too everything. I know that too. And I don't trust easily. My gift shows me the worst of people. Their secrets, their lies. I've seen what they hide. It makes believing in anything difficult. Lorcan turned to face her fully, his free hand rising to cup her cheek. The touch was gentle, reverent, like she was something precious he was afraid to break. Then don't believe in anything, he said quietly. Just believe in this. What you feel when we touch. The bond that's been pulling us together since the moment our blood mingled. His forehead pressed to hers. Tell me you don't feel it. She couldn't, because she did feel it. Bright and undeniable and terrifying in its certainty. Ask me again, she whispered. After Soraya is home, after Varen is dealt with. Ask me to stay, and I'll give you my answer. Hope flickered in his ancient eyes. That's not a no. It's not a yes either. I'll take it. He kissed her then, soft at first, questioning, giving her every chance to pull away. When she didn't, he deepened it, one hand tangling in her hair, the other pressing against the small of her back. The mate bond sang, and for one perfect moment, Yara let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have this. They broke apart breathless, foreheads still touching. After, she repeated. After, he agreed. On the 6th day, everything shattered. Yara was in the library poring over maps of Varen's estates when the vision hit her without warning. No object, no touch. Just a sudden violent intrusion, like someone had reached into her skull and pulled. Varen's face, smiling. The king's little bloodhound is becoming a problem. She's seen too much. Another voice, a woman's, cold and precise. What would you have me do? Remove her. Make it look like an accident. The mountain paths are treacherous this time of year. And if the king investigates? He'll grieve. He'll rage. And then he'll make a mistake. Varen's smile widened. That's when we strike. Yara gasped back to consciousness, knocking books from the table. Her vision swam. Her head throbbed like someone had driven a spike through it. Varen knew about her. He was coming. She staggered to her feet just as Kestrel burst through the library door. We have a problem. The warrior's face was grim. One of the kitchen staff was found dead. Poison. The same poison was found in a wine flask meant for your quarters. Yara's blood ran cold. When? Within the hour. Someone inside the Ironhold is working for Varen. Where's Lorcan? Council chamber. He's already called for lockdown, but... Kestrel hesitated. There's more. A rider arrived from the eastern border. Varen's forces are moving. 300 soldiers, marching toward his mountain estate. He's preparing for war. Or consolidating his position before we can reach him. Kestrel's jaw tightened. Either way, we're running out of time. Yara pushed past her, ignoring the pounding in her skull. She found Lorcan in the council chamber, surrounded by commanders and advisors, his expression carved from ice. When he saw her, the ice cracked. You're pale. He crossed the room in 3 strides. What happened? Varen knows about me. He's ordered my death. She gripped his arm. And he's moving forces. Whatever he's planning, it's happening now. Lorcan's hands framed her face, his eyes searching hers. Did they hurt you? No. The poison never reached me. But it could have. His voice shook. Actually shook. If Kestrel hadn't, I'm fine. She covered his hands with hers. But we can't wait anymore. Vern's accelerating his timeline because of me. If we don't move now, he'll either kill Soraya or use her as a hostage when you arrive. I won't use you as bait. You're not. I'm choosing to fight. Her gaze held his. We do this together. That was the deal. The deal was for information, not for you to die. Then don't let me die. The words landed heavy between them. Lorcan closed his eyes, warring with himself. When he opened them, the ice had returned. But beneath it, she saw fear. If anything happens to you, it won't. She rose on her toes and kissed him fiercely. I'm harder to kill than I look. Remember? That's still not funny. Wasn't joking. Within hours, the Ironhold transformed. Warriors armed themselves. Horses were saddled. Maps were studied, and strategies debated. Yara watched Lorcan command his people, decisive, steady, every inch the king who'd held a throne for 3 centuries. But she also saw the cracks beneath. The way his gaze kept finding her across the room. The tension in his shoulders that only eased when he knew exactly where she was. He's terrified, she realized. Not of battle, of losing me. The gravity of that truth settled into her chest. By nightfall, they were ready. 50 of Lorcan's most trusted warriors, Kestrel among them, assembled in the courtyard. Horses stamped and breath fogged in the cold air. The smell of leather and steel hung heavy. Torches flickered against the dark, casting long shadows across determined faces. Yara wore borrowed armor, lighter than what the soldiers carried, but enough to stop a blade. A short sword hung at her hip, though she doubted she'd use it. Her weapon was her gift. Lorcan approached her as the final preparations were made. You remember the plan? Stay close to you. If things go wrong, run. Don't argue. And? Let you handle Varen. Perfect. He cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. I meant what I said. After this is over, I'm asking you to stay. Properly. I know. And I intend to make you say yes. Despite everything, the fear, the danger, the impossible odds, Yara smiled. Confident. Determined. He kissed her forehead. There's a difference. Then he mounted his horse and addressed his warriors. Varen has betrayed everything we stand for. He's taken my sister, threatened my mate, plotted to destroy what generations have built. His voice rang across the courtyard. Tonight, we end it. Not with mercy, not with negotiation, with justice. The warriors raised their fists. The sound echoed off stone walls like thunder. They rode out as the moon rose, 50 wolves racing toward war. Yara leaned into Lorcan's back, feeling the steady pound of his heart through his armor. 10 days, she thought. This was supposed to be just 10 days. Now she couldn't imagine walking away. Varen's estate clung to the mountainside like a scar. Dark stone, narrow windows, built for defense rather than beauty. They arrived at dawn, mist curling through the trees, the air sharp with frost. Lorcan's scouts had already confirmed 300 soldiers inside, plus Varen's personal guard. They were outnumbered 6 to 1. The direct approach is suicide, Kestrel murmured. Then we don't go direct. Lorcan studied the fortress. There's a passage, an old escape route from when this estate belonged to my grandfather. Varen might not even know it exists. And if he does, then we improvise. The passage was exactly where Lorcan remembered, hidden behind a waterfall, barely wide enough for 2 people abreast. They left the horses with a small guard and proceeded on foot, torches lighting the ancient stone. Yara felt the weight of the mountain pressing down, the darkness thick and hungry. But Lorcan's hand found hers, steady and warm, and she held on. The tunnel emerged in the estate's cellar. From there, they moved like shadows, taking out guards silently, working their way toward the upper floors. They found Soraya's prison on the 3rd level. The door was iron-banded oak, locked from the outside. Kestrel picked it in seconds. Inside, the room was sparse but not cruel. A bed, a chair, a window too narrow for escape, and Soraya herself, thin and pale, but alive. Her eyes widened when she saw Lorcan. "Brother, I'm here." He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might disappear. "I'm so sorry it took so long. I knew you'd come." She was crying now. "I never stopped believing." Yara watched the reunion, her throat tight. This was why she'd risked everything, for this moment, this embrace. Then Soraya's gaze found hers. "You're her," the girl breathed, "the one who found me." "I just followed the visions. You saved me." Soraya pulled away from Lorcan and hugged Yara fiercely. "Thank you." Before Yara could respond, a slow clap echoed from the doorway. Touching. Varen stood in the corridor, flanked by a dozen guards. He looked nothing like a villain. Handsome, silver-haired, with the easy confidence of a man who'd spent centuries manipulating kings. "Hello, cousin," he said pleasantly. "I see you've found your way through Father's old tunnel. I wondered if you'd remember it." Lorcan pushed Soraya behind him. "It's over, Varen." "Is it?" Varen smiled. "You're deep in my fortress, outnumbered, with your mate and your sister both vulnerable. I'd say the odds favor me." "You underestimate my people." "I've been managing your people for 160 years. I know exactly what they're capable of." Varen's gaze slid to Yara. "And I know what you're capable of, Bloodhound. Impressive gift. It's a shame you won't live to use it again." He raised his hand. A signal. The guards charged. What happened next was chaos. Lorcan shifted. Bones cracking, skin splitting, into a wolf the size of a warhorse, all silver fur and blazing amber eyes. He tore through guards like paper, a blur of teeth and fury. Kestrel fought at his flank, her daggers singing. The other warriors poured through the tunnel behind them, evening the odds. Yara grabbed Soraya and pulled her behind an overturned table. "Stay down." "I'm not useless." Soraya grabbed a fallen sword. "I've been waiting 8 months to fight back." Before Yara could argue, Varen appeared before them, having slipped past the battle with serpent-like grace. The Bloodhound and the princess. His sword gleamed. "Kill 2 birds with one." Yara didn't think. She reached out and grabbed his bare wrist, and pushed. Not a vision this time. Something new. Something that had been building since the mate bond awakened. She shoved every horror she'd ever witnessed through her gift. Centuries of pain, betrayal, death. She made him feel it all at once. Varen screamed. His sword clattered to the floor. He collapsed, clutching his head, blood streaming from his nose. Soraya didn't hesitate. She drove her stolen blade through his chest. Silence fell. Varen's guards, seeing their lord dead, dropped their weapons. The battle was over. Lorcan shifted back to human form, blood-streaked and breathing hard. Someone tossed him a cloak, which he caught without looking. He crossed to where Yara knelt trembling. "What did you do?" "I don't know." Her voice shook. I made him feel everything. Every terrible thing I've ever seen." He pulled her to her feet, into his arms. "You're incredible. I'm going to pass out. I'll catch you." She did. And he did. Yara woke in a bed softer than clouds. For a moment she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came flooding back. The battle, Varen's death, and the impossible thing she'd done with her gift. And Lorcan, catching her as she fell. She sat up slowly. The room was unfamiliar. One of Varen's guest chambers, she guessed, repurposed after the battle. Sunlight streamed through the window, warm and golden. Lorcan sat in a chair beside the bed, watching her. "How long was I out?" she asked. 2 days. 2 days. You nearly killed yourself with that stunt." His voice was carefully neutral, but she heard the fear beneath. "The healers weren't sure you'd wake up. But I did." "You did." He leaned forward, elbows on knees. "Yara, what you did to Varen, I've never seen anything like it. Your gift isn't just reading anymore. It's something more. I don't understand it either. We'll figure it out together." He paused. "If you want." The 10 days. She'd almost forgotten. "The deal is fulfilled," she said slowly. "Soraya is safe. Varen is dead. I'm free to go." "You are." His expression gave nothing away. "Your gold is waiting. Papers for a new identity. Passage to anywhere you want." Yara looked at him. This ancient, impossible man who'd begged for her help and caught her when she fell and looked at her like she was worth more than gold. "Ask me," she said quietly. Hope flickered in his eyes. "Yara, ask me to stay." He moved from the chair to the bed, taking her hands in his. "Stay." The word was raw, stripped bare. "Not because of the bond or the oath or what you can do. Stay because I love you. Because these 10 days have shown me what it feels like to not be alone anymore." His forehead pressed to hers. "I spent 400 years building walls. You walked through them like they were made of smoke." Yara's eyes burned. "I don't know how to be a queen." "I don't need a queen. I need you." "I'm difficult. I push back. I don't bow." "I know. It's my favorite thing about you." She laughed despite herself, a wet, shaky sound. "You're impossible." "I've had centuries to practice." Yara pulled back just enough to meet his eyes, those ancient, beautiful eyes that had seen centuries of pain and still looked at her with hope. "I love you," she said. "I don't know when it happened, somewhere between the blood oath and the battlements, but I do." Lorcan's breath caught. "Say it again." "I love you, and I'm staying." She cupped his face. "Not for 10 days. Not for a year. For as long as you'll have me." "Forever then." "Forever." He kissed her, deep and desperate, and full of 400 years of loneliness finally breaking apart. She kissed him back with everything she had, sealing her choice. When they broke apart, both breathless, Lorcan reached into his pocket and withdrew a ring, simple silver set with a single amber stone. "It was my mother's," he said. "I've been carrying it for 300 years, waiting for someone worthy of it." He slipped it onto her finger. "Marry me. Bond with me. Let me spend the rest of your life proving you made the right choice." "Yes." She didn't hesitate. "To all of it." From the doorway, Soraya's voice rang out. "Finally! I've been waiting days for this." They turned to find her grinning, Kestrel behind her trying not to smirk. "How long have you been standing there?" Lorcan demanded. "Long enough." Soraya crossed the room and hugged them both. "Welcome to the family, sister." The bonding ceremony was held under the full moon, 1 month later. Yara wore deep emerald silk, a gift from Soraya that made her eyes glow like forest fire. Lorcan wore formal black, the silver circlet of the Northern King gleaming against his dark hair. They spoke their vows on the battlements where they had first kissed, promising partnership, choice, and love freely given. When their hands joined, the mate bond pulsed bright and warm, sealing what words could only gesture toward. The celebration lasted until dawn. There was music and dancing and more food than Yara had ever seen. Briga had outdone herself, tables groaning with roasted meats, honeyed pastries, and a towering cake that made Soraya squeal with delight. The younger girl danced with every eligible warrior in the Ironhold, clearly making up for lost time. Kestrel got drunk for the first time in a century and sang bawdy tavern songs that made even the veterans blush. And through it all, Lorcan never let go of Yara's hand. Later, in their chambers, wrapped in furs and firelight, he traced lazy patterns on her shoulder. "Tell me something," he murmured. "Something I don't know." Yara thought for a moment. "I used to dream about being invisible, slipping through life unnoticed, never touching anyone, never being touched." She tilted her head to look at him. "Now I can't imagine anything worse." His arms tightened around her. "What changed?" "You. You saw me, really saw me, and didn't run." She smiled. "Although I did try to scare you off with that older men comment." "Ah, yes. The moment I knew I was doomed." "Doomed?" "In the best way." He kissed her softly. "Your turn. Tell me something I don't know." "I knew what you were the moment I touched your hand, even before the visions. I felt the bond, and it terrified me. And now? Now it feels like home." Lorcan's expression softened in a way that still stole her breath, this ancient, powerful creature looking at her like she was his entire world. "I waited 400 years for you," he said quietly. "Every battle, every treaty, every lonely century, they were all leading here, to this room, to you. Was it worth the wait? Every single second." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Yara let herself sink into it. Into him, into this impossible life she'd stumbled into. She thought about the gilded sparrow, about her brother's debt, about the woman she'd been. Afraid, hiding, certain she'd never be free. That woman wouldn't recognize her now. But maybe that was the point. Maybe all those years of survival had been preparing her for this. For a king who saw her worth, a sister who became family, and a love that felt like coming home after a lifetime of wandering. She'd told him she didn't date older men. He'd proven her spectacularly wrong. "No regrets?" Lorcan asked, as if reading her thoughts. Yara smiled against his chest. "Not a single one." Outside, the moon hung full and bright over the mountains. Wolves howled in the distance, celebrating their king and queen, and somewhere in the Ironhold, Soraya was probably plotting her next adventure. But here, in this room, there was only warmth, only peace, only love. And if you're still here, still listening, thank you. Drop a comment and let us know where you're tuning in from. If this story touched you, subscribe. It's free, and it helps more people find their way to stories like this one.